Wondrous Underwater Structures Part 1 of 2, Museums and Sculptures for Ocean Protection. Continue watching to find out more.
Vegan, you don't have to climb mountains to prove that you are strong.
When visiting Malta, you might hear a native say, "Ande pachi," meaning pleased to meet you in Maltese. I'm Edward. Since time immemorial, the saints and sages have known how to tap into the divine power within and thus transcend this ephemeral world. The beautiful people of Malta celebrate your sincerity in following the Master's teachings to attain spiritual freedom and awakening. May your soul rejoice. Welcome to our show, Wondrous Underwater Structures, Part 1 of 2. Museums and Sculptures for Ocean Protection. Sometimes it's easy to forget that the oceans are the source of all life on Earth. Oceans cover over 70% of the Earth's surface and supply at least 50% of the oxygen we breathe. More than 200,000 known species live in the oceans, with many more undiscovered. Due to a lack of responsibility, we humans take advantage of the ocean's bounty, threatening all life that they sustain, endangering our precious planet. Many of the world's artists care deeply about the Earth and express their concern by bringing marine environments into their work. In 1970, the U.S. artist Robert Smithson produced his Spiral Jetty in Utah's Great Salt Lake. His work was inspired by seeing the reddish reflection of beings such as algae, shrimp people, and microorganisms moving in the water. With today's growing awareness of climate change and other environmental issues, a new form of art is being created that aims to raise eco-consciousness and sometimes highlighting specific concerns. One practitioner of this new art form who focuses on the ocean is British sculptor, scuba diver, marine conservationist, and underwater photographer Jason deCaires Taylor. Jason's work conveys many important messages, while at the same time creating opportunities to support the growth of marine ecosystems. After more than 15 years of work, Jason's large-scale underwater museums and sculpture parks now span the globe, with each site a submerged and tidal marine environment. Two years after the 2004 Hurricane Ivan caused extensive damage to Molinere Bay on the west coast of Grenada in the West Indies, Jason deCaires Taylor constructed artificial sculptures in the local reef, using long-lasting pH-neutral cement to provide a new base for marine life. The Molinere Underwater Sculpture Park is now listed by National Geographic as one of the top 25 wonders of the world and is designated as a National Marine Protected Area. In describing the message conveyed in this piece, Jason says,
"Most people just see the surface of the ocean, and it is hard to think of something so plain and enormous as fragile. We don't regard our oceans as sacred, and we should."
The next project we'll look at by Jason is on display at the Museo Subacuático de Arte, or MUSA, or Underwater Museum of Art in Cancún, Mexico, one of the largest and most ambitious underwater art attractions in the world. The museum consists of over 500 life-size sculptures submerged in the Caribbean waters off the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico's eastern state of Quintana Roo. Some of the creations that can be seen in MUSA are The Gardener, a girl taking care of potted corals, and The Dream Collector, a man reading messages from inside bottles found on the bottom of the sea. In 2011, Jason sculpted The Musician, a full-scale mermaid seated at a Steinway concert grand piano exhibited in MUSA, the Bahamas. 3 years later, he created Ocean Atlas, the world's largest single underwater sculpture. The 5-meter-high statue of a young girl weighing over 60 tons depicts her carrying the weight of the ocean in reference to the ancient Greek myth of Atlas. The sculpture's message to the world is empower the youth so they can help rectify the endless mistakes we have made. As part of the 2015 Totally Thames Festival, Jason deCaires Taylor installed 4 sculptures of horsemen titled The Rising Tide along the Thames River opposite the Houses of Parliament in the United Kingdom. Following the daily rise and fall of the river, the sculptures are visible from the shore at low tide and become almost completely submerged at high tide. The horsemen have various special meanings. The rider in a suit represents ambivalence toward the environmental crisis, while the young riders represent hope for change in the future. Regarding the work, Jason says the following.
The Rising Tide was located within sight of the Houses of Parliament. I think we really have to start holding people accountable for what they are doing.
Vegan tested positive for willingness to help.
Reflective viewers, we'll now pause for a moment to hear a brief message and return shortly. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to our show featuring underwater sculptures and museums. Another one of Jason deCaires Taylor's major projects is the Museo Atlántico, or Atlantic Museum, the first underwater art museum in European waters. The museum, which opened to the public in 2016 after more than 3 years of planning and construction, consists of over 300 submerged sculptures and architectural forms within the Lanzarote's UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve. The artworks are arranged in 6 groups, each focusing on a different theme, including climate change, the refugee crisis, and the merging of nature and humanity. The Corallarium is a semi-submerged gallery that features a series of sculptures on the intertidal region and seabed of Surafanfushi Island in the Maldives at depths of between 3 and 5 meters. Installed in 2018, the gallery is situated in the clear, shallow waters of the largest lagoon in the Savayani Atoll on the island of Surafanfushi. The artwork questions the stubborn ignorance of adults regarding the impact of humans on the natural world and warns low-lying nations such as the Maldives of the environmental crisis lurking beneath the water's surface that threatens the very future of life on Earth. In 2019, Jason worked with Australia's Museum of Underwater Art, or MOUA, to set up Coral Greenhouse, the first underwater museum in the Southern Hemisphere. This work also shares the message of conserving and restoring coral reefs, for which Australia is famous. While working in Australia that same year, Jason asked Dakota Johnson, a young girl from the Walguru Kaba tribe, to be a model for Ocean Siren, a 4-meter-high illuminated sculpture in Townsville. The sculpture holds a bayless shell, a traditional indigenous communication device that functions as a siren or warning signal about the threat to the Great Barrier Reef posed by warming seas. The sculpture changes colors according to the ocean's temperature. In 2021, Jason deCaires Taylor completed the Underwater Museum of Cannes, France, in the Mediterranean Sea, and the Museum of Underwater Sculpture Ayia Napa, or MUSA, at Panera Beach, Cyprus, taking him 4 years. The MUSA Museum aims to raise public awareness about the declining state of the world's oceans, including the Mediterranean Sea, which are highly polluted and suffer from overfishing and plastic waste. The underwater forest of MUSA consists of more than 93 works of art in the form of trees and other figurines to attract marine life and enrich the area's biodiversity over time. The figurative sculptures in the museum model the mystical and otherworldly themes of Cyprus's cultural heritage, and the arrangement of the sculptures follows the topography of the Panera Beach seabed. We thank Jason deCaires Taylor and other artists for their ingenious creation of underwater art pieces that remind us of the beauty of the oceans and the importance of protecting and nurturing them. Welcome to our show, Wondrous Underwater Structures, Part 2 of 2, Lost Cities Uncovered. Many intriguing stories remain hidden beneath the surface of our oceans, rivers, and lakes, including those of several underwater cities that were long forgotten or have been written off as mere legends. Traces of history can be found in the depths of the ocean around the Gulf of Cambay off the west coast of India. In 2001, researchers from the India Oceanic Institute, using sonar to study below the sea's surface, identified huge stone buildings in an area 5 miles long and 2 miles wide. Divers investigated the ancient city and retrieved dozens of items, including wood and pottery shards, some as far back as 32,000 years. Oceanographers concluded that the area became submerged about 9,000 years ago. Michael Cremo, a U.S. archaeologist and the author of Forbidden Archaeology, The Hidden History of the Human Race, believes that the city existed from 32,000 to 9,000 years ago. Long before the exploration of the Gulf of Cambay, another underwater city in India was discovered. The 1963 archaeological excavations carried out by the Deccan College, Pune, and the Department of Archaeology, Government of Gujarat, located the ancient city of Dwarka at a depth of 40 meters below sea level. Hindus believe Dwarka to be the hometown of Lord Krishna. According to the Hindu scriptures, after Lord Krishna left the earth, the city of Dwarka and all its inhabitants were swallowed up by the ocean. Numerous ancient artifacts were found during the excavations, leading scientists to conclude that Dwarka was a trading hub for Indian and Arab commerce. In 1987, a series of steps measuring 50 meters long and 20 meters wide at a depth of 25 meters below sea level surprised a diver who was exploring the southern Ryukyu Islands of Japan. Since then, several scholars have visited the site, and its origins remain a topic of debate. Some experts, including Japanese marine geologist Dr. Masaki Kimura, believe that the monument is a human-made stepped pyramid. However, other researchers claim that the monument is natural, having been shaped over the years by underwater currents. Despite its uncertain origins, the Yonaguni Monument continues to attract the interest of divers. Situated off the coast of Laconia in southern Peloponnese, Greece, lies Pavlopetre, one of the oldest ancient underwater cities ever discovered. The city's name means Paul's Stone, after the 1st century Christian apostle, and was discovered by geologist Fokion Nigri in 1904. While he was exploring the seabed between the island of Elefonisos and southern Laconia's Punta Beach. 3 years later, Dr. Nicholas Fleming, an oceanographer from the University of Southampton in the UK, visited the site and declared it to be an ancient submerged city at a depth of 3 to 4 meters. Archaeologists from the University of Cambridge, UK, visited the area and concluded that Pavlopetre was first inhabited in 2800 BC. Although the buildings and streets appear to be from the Mycenaean period, 1680 to 1180 BC. Researchers believe that the city became submerged after a series of 3 cataclysmic earthquakes occurred in the region around 1000 BC. Port Royal, Jamaica was a busy training center famous for its wealth. This lively place was lost suddenly after a massive earthquake with an estimated magnitude of 7.5 hit the island on June 7, 1692. In the 1900s, remains of the city lying beneath 12 meters of water were found by visitors. The most famous artifact discovered in the city during a 1969 excavation was a pocket watch dated 1686 that stopped at 1143. Simultaneous exploration by researchers from the Nautical Archaeology program at Texas A&M University and the Jamaica National Heritage Trust also collected many other artifacts dating from the 17th century.
Each life which exists now is a result of the previous life's causes, either from the original soul or from the evolved animal, coming down to earth as predestined. So if anyone who kills a life will definitely reap the retribution, the collection of the selected spiritistic messages. Gaudaiism.
Creative viewers will now pause for a moment to hear a brief message. We'll return shortly. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to our show on underwater structures. In early 2001, a sunken Cuban city about 700 meters underwater was discovered by Paulina Zaleski and her husband Paul Wenswig during a joint Cuban and Canadian survey mission. Sonar images recorded symmetrical and geometric stone structures covering an area of 2 square kilometers. The city's surface looks similar to a barren seabed desert, with neatly arranged stone patterns indicating the presence of an advanced city from an ancient civilization. Lake Titicaca is located in the Andes Mountains between Bolivia and Peru. It is the largest freshwater lake in South America and was the cradle of Peru's ancient civilizations, including that of the Incas. Their presence can still be seen in the ruins they left behind, including mysterious underwater temples thought to be between 1,000 and 1,500 years old. A team of experts and divers from Bolivia and Belgium collected thousands of items from the site, including gold and ceramics. The items are of a pre-Inca civilization and have been estimated to be 2,000 years old. Abu Qir, in the northwest of Alexandria, Egypt, is home to the sunken cities of Heraklion and Canopus, which were explored by archaeologists in 1992. Heraklion, also known as Thonis, was an ancient Egyptian city near Alexandria. Its legendary beginnings date back to the 12th century BC. In 1998, another site in Alexandria was discovered by the French underwater archaeologists. Evidence suggests that the area used to be the fabled royal palace of Her Majesty Queen Cleopatra. It is believed that the city disappeared underwater after a series of natural disasters, including tidal waves and earthquakes. Let's now look at some more recently lost cities. The Lost Villages is a community of 9 villages in the former Canadian townships of Cornwall and Osnabrück, whose residents had to leave their homes due to the construction of the St. Lawrence Seaway and Power Project in 1958. For this mega project, a toll road and railway line were moved, and an agricultural area of 8,093 hectares was lost, relocating more than 6,500 people. But their historical ties to the old villages have not faded. In 1977, the former residents founded the Lost Villages Historical Society and established the Lost Villages Museum. Also hidden 40 meters underwater in a lake between the 5 Lion Mountains in China is a maze of white temples, memorial arches, paved roads, and houses that belong to Xicheng, or the Lion City, built during the Tang Dynasty in 621 AD. The city was the center of politics and economics in the eastern province of Zhejiang. In 1959, the Chinese government constructed a hydroelectric power station for which the man-made lake of Qingdao was built. Consequently, the city was submerged and approximately 3 million people were relocated. The lost metropolis was rediscovered during an expedition in 2001. 10 years later, the magazine Chinese National Geography released a collection of photos and illustrations, including a map of the ancient city that showed the well-preserved, impressive architecture. In the 20th century, 2 Spanish cities were deliberately submerged for the construction of dams and reservoirs, namely Sant Roma de Sau in 1960 and Mediano in 1974. In both places, church towers remain clearly visible when the water level recedes. Galiazin is a small Russian town of about 13,000 people, located in the Tver region on the banks of the Volga River or Uklich Reservoir, about 200 kilometers from Moscow. In 1939 to 1940, for the construction of the Uglich hydroelectric power station, the old town was flooded. The water has an average depth of 5 meters, but reaches depths of 23 meters in some places, submerging virtually all the buildings and city structures. The bell tower of St. Nicholas Cathedral, built in 1800, is the only architectural structure that remains above the water. It now functions as a lighthouse for ships sailing around Galiazin and occasionally serves as a venue for special events. These marvelous structures and cities bear witness to past human development, inviting us to appreciate their beauty and reflect on the impact of our behavior on the vulnerable people and the environment. Let's continue learning from the past as we build a better and safer planet for the future, where all creatures live together in peace and harmony.
Non-vegan tested positive for health connection.
Wise viewers, thank you for your company today during Wondrous Underwater Structures, Part 2 of 2, Lost Cities Uncovered. May heaven bless all beings on earth so that we may live in joy and abundance.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Unsere Sendungen bieten viele Sprachen. Gehen Sie auf suprememastertv.com/schedule und suprememastertv.com/AJAR.